Welcome back to the AM show. And this right here, right now, is AM exclusive with me. And my guest today, I'm actually very happy to be chatting with this woman. She's been described as a trailblazer woman in politics. She served in many capacities, from legal, political, and I like to say she's one of the brilliant female politicians in the country. She was also the former Deputy Transport Minister under the John Mahama administration and currently special aide to the former President John Mahama. My guest for AM Exclusive is Joyce Bawah Mogtari. It is good to have you in the studio.
Thank you very much. Very good morning to all of you.
Welcome.
Yes,
and I must congratulate you. From all my readings, it appears that you are, you've done so much that's admirable, especially as a woman in politics, and they describe you as a trailblazer.
Oh, really?
How would you describe yourself to someone who didn't know you?
Just simple Joyce Bawah, hardworking, dedicated, committed, passionate about what I do, and love the law.
What do you do that you're passionate about?
Everything. I'm passionate about my work, passionate about the courses that I love, passionate about my interactions. Whatever I do, I believe in it. If I don't believe in something, I don't do it. I'm passionate about empowering the next generation of young girls in particular. I don't mind if it's a generality of young people. I'm also passionate about men who help us in the course of our efforts. And I think that I always single-handedly praise my boss for making it possible for me to actually be comfortable in this role. It's not an easy role.
Yeah,
and I remember the days when I used to get these very screaming headlines. I'll be so upset and I'll be so depressed. And you know, he'll be the only one saying to me, oh, don't worry, but this is nothing, you know. I mean, there's a lot worse out there. It could be worse. I mean, that's okay. You don't have to worry too much about it. It took me a very long time to navigate this very challenging space.
Okay.
And
How
genuinely,
long is a very long time?
Well, it's about 10 years now.
Okay.
Like joke. And I'm not someone who's used to talking about myself. It's not something I ever do. I don't think if you ask me even to write about myself, it would be possible for me to do so. But I'm sure that for the many people that I engage, for the many students that I have, the many staff that I have, and the colleagues that I interact with, I'm sure that they will probably have very interesting things to say about me. But there's also one thing a lot of people don't know. I'm actually very disciplined.
Okay.
Extremely disciplined. And if you are not very disciplined, you probably won't hang around me for long. Even if you are my friend and you don't exhibit the same qualities of discipline, I probably would not have you for a friend. Like I say to people all the time, if I sit here with you, I'm here, we're on TV, we're on radio. But if we didn't have to go outside and say anything about our conversation, there's no need for you to go and say it. So even when I have friends, if you don't have that level of discipline, there's no way you can be my friend. And I'll very easily lose you.
And this applies in all aspects of
In all aspects of my life. I am extremely disciplined, even in my relationships.
Okay.
Yes. I take that very, very seriously. And I think it's a gift that I took from my father. And I think it's an admirable quality that I continue to exhibit. And so I'm extremely disciplined. When your guy called me this morning, I told him, if I agree to come, I'll be here. If I don't want to come, I won't say so. But if I say 7:30, I'll be here before 7:30. And I think it's a quality that all of us should at least have a little bit of.
That's admirable.
Yeah.
Ghanaians sound very punctual, so yeah, it's good to see that.
I have always been punctual. Yes.
Okay, so you got your education abroad. Would you say that that has been the catalyst that propelled you to the successes you've achieved? Your law degree was abroad, your maritime, you got your International Maritime Law Institute for Malta and all that. Would you say that education abroad has helped you get to where you are today?
I think education generally is great. And I think a great education will take you very, very far. So I would say that my education generally from primary, secondary school, all through, I think that in many ways, each institution that I have actually been in has somehow had a profound impact on me as an individual. And I think that I don't want to put, I mean, I've just actually acquired almost a second degree also here in Ghana.
Okay.
So I think that I take my education also very, very seriously.
What field is that in?
Well, for some weird reason, a colleague of mine encouraged me to try a course in communication. I mean, when I started, I almost left it. I mean,
did you need it?
Well, I don't know if I needed it.
Mediator, a spokesperson,
I don't know if I needed it, but you know, sometimes I am one of those people who enjoys exploring new challenges.
Okay.
I enjoy new things. For some time, I thought that, okay, maybe I've been in the law for so long, I've been in politics for so long, and you know, with politics, we go for these strategic sessions, strategic programs, different courses that I always built to suit you at one time or the other. But then I thought, okay, maybe for some time now you've been speaking for the party, for the flag bearer, maybe do something different. You know, I see when people brag about how many master's degrees they have, how many PhDs they have. I don't think that I do them because I want to sit and count them every morning. I think what I do them for is just to create more avenues for me, first, to meet new people, secondly, to learn new things, thirdly, to keep my mind very, very busy. I think that there's a way that we stay young, we stay relevant, is that we also keep a very active mind. And your mind can only be active as long as you're doing new things or learning new things. So I think for me personally, everything I learn and the effort I put into it is normally because I believe that your mind should not be left idle.
Okay. Let's start the conversation from this scholarship, Bruhaha ongoing. First of all, was your education was it funded by some sort of government scholarship, or did you pay for it?
No, I've had like 2 scholarships, but none of them was a government scholarship.
Okay.
I think that the scholarship for the maritime course that I did was actually a United Nations funded program. It was a very, very expensive program. It also has a certain bias towards females in particular who were interested in the maritime. So I think I was very, very lucky in that sense. It was a very highly competitive scholarship. I went in for the interview, I took the aptitude test, I came top of that particular list. So I think that it took quite a lot of effort and preparation. But yes, coming from Ghana, with the background that I already had and the qualities that I already exhibited wherever I was at the time, I think that it made a huge impact and made it possible for me. Okay. You know, I remember years ago when we first left government, I'm sure if you check, you remember that story. We were part of a group that were actually accused even of taking government scholarships. Okay. I mean, honestly, short of driving past the scholarship secretariat because I used to do some stuff at the Ghana Maritime Authority, I have never walked into the Ghana Scholarship Secretariat for myself, a family member, a friend, or anybody for that matter. I know it exists. I've met students at different parts of my life who've had scholarships from that particular entity. I think that the whole reason why that institution was set up was for very, very good reasons. For brilliant, needy students in particular. I remember when Mr. Mahama and Professor Mills were in office, Ghana had just become a nascent oil-producing country, for example. So many young people who exhibited aptitudes in the sciences, in petroleum, and in energy were actually sent to all sorts of countries, especially to Scotland, to go and pursue courses in improving or coming to work in our petroleum sector. So there are some very good things that that secretariat does. But yes, there's also the infamy of whether or not persons who receive these scholarships actually need them. For my kind of scholarship, I'm sure if I had worked there, they would have told me that it was too expensive to be funded by the government of Ghana, because I've heard that too from many people who try to access similar scholarships. Look, we all need to criticize some of these things to make them better. I mean, I don't know what the criteria is. I'm not sure what the requirements are, but I would want to believe that if you are capable of sponsoring your wards, and that you do not need to access government scholarships, then you should do that. The honorable thing is that leave it for those who genuinely need it, or encourage them to give it to people who actually need it. Look, there are some amazing things that scholarships do. I look at myself at the time when I wanted to go back to school. There is no way that I could have put together that kind of money. My tuition fees alone were in excess of 60,000 euros. I also had a,
That's a lot of money.
A great deal of money any day. And this was about 10 years ago. Even today, still a lot of money. In dollars, in euros, name it. So these are very huge commitments. And this was done by a United Nations body. Contributions from member states. Monies that they believe should be expended on individuals who will go back to their countries and make that difference. The purposes behind these scholarships are sometimes even more laudable than what we gain from them. And when I got that scholarship, I made the very best out of it. I came top of my class. I got the best award for my dissertation. I took it very, very seriously. So the persons who invested in me didn't waste the money. And even till today, I continue to live up to the expectations of that scholarship.
And you came back to the country.
Always.
You're serving.
Always. A few weeks ago, I told somebody, I could have lived anywhere, but somehow I've never wanted to. Maybe I'm my father's daughter. I love Ghana, and I love what Ghana holds for my future.
I think that when you go to Abilingpe and some other visa application centers, you see young people getting out of this country in drones and going through all manner of things just to secure funding to get out of this country. Some have cited the harsh economic weather in this country, unemployment, underemployment, and all that. What's your assessment of this situation? The way young people are eager to leave this country, whether for education, for familiar or whatever, but they do not want to return because they think there's no hope for this country.
I mean, look, my sister, if people don't get into jobs such as yours or have opportunities such as mine, what would they do? You meet a young person at age 35, probably almost 40, and they've never been able to secure a decent, well-paying job. When Mr. Mahama provided this opportunity for us to debate the proposal of the 24-hour economy, I remember people found it, even tried very hard to undermine it. Suddenly I hear that, oh, okay, in the morning they tell us that the passport office will be working 24/7, or they tell us that, think about it. If we have a 3-shift system, for example, a lot of the young people who leave university, and this year I'm told that 1.4 million young people have left our institutions of learning. If we don't create more avenues for sustainable employment, are we going to be able to continue to take taxpayers' money, give it to partisan young people who are associated or affiliated to us only, and create NAPCO, create men in security, women in prison work, in sanitation, and all of these things? How long do they keep these jobs for? How many people will put these references even on their CVs or resumes and be able to get a job because they worked at NAPCO, for example? Look, we keep majoring in minors. We need to do something more than what has always been done. If we're going to be building an export-driven economy, then so be it. It means let's get all industries to feed into this perspective. Let's agree that everybody who is able to run a 24-hour shift system should be given a certain incentive. Why? People come into this country to invest in affordable housing. We give them a 5-year tax holiday. Why can't we do the same for someone who wants to build an industrial enclave, for example, in Tema? Someone who wants to take advantage of the free zones license, for example, and go all the way to the Upper East region. Look at the time it takes to arrive there, the travel time and all of that. Why don't we make it count by saying that, look, if you take your industries to this region, to that region, to this other part of the country, these are the incentives you get. Look, it's possible cost of living is even lower in those places. I know medical doctors who took postings to some of these further places. They have remained there. They've become farmers. They've set up schools. They've set up hotel facilities, guest houses. They saw opportunities that even those of us who come from those places didn't see before. You understand? What we need to do is to encourage government, for example, to create an enabling environment, offer support. And you see, sometimes we overemphasize the talk more than the actual action. Look, I told Mr. Mahama recently that if he were to introduce the 24-hour economy, I would go also to the radio stations and demand that it should be implemented in the manner in which we are advocating for. Because you see, most of the young people who are totally unengaged, and they tell you, underemployment is even worse. So all these stopgap measures that we keep offering to people, what does it mean? Seriously, how much will be your pension if you stayed on NAPCO for the next 5 years? What will be the opportunity for you to build a small house for yourself and your family? What kind of education can you provide for your young children? I weep for the fact that we no longer see the blushing brides or the mourning widows, for example. I weep for the innocence of the young people who struggle to leave the country. I cry for our siblings who cannot find just a basic sustainable job. I listen to older people tell you that when they left the walls of the universities, they had people waiting on the staircase to recruit them. We don't have that anymore.
No, we don't.
Because one, there are so many of us. The queues are very long. The jobs are not there. But what is it that is making it impossible for the jobs to be there? The economy is very tight. Look at the rate of inflation. Look at the cost of borrowing to invest in your business. Look at the cost of going as a worker even to take a loan facility to support your business.
Okay.
Look at all those who have the second incomes. Ask them, how are they coping?
We will touch on all these things in the course of the conversation. But I must say that I see what you mean by being a passionate person. Do you have political ambition? Do you see yourself becoming a president someday?
I've never even thought about my life beyond the day when I wake up. I just thank God that I woke up today and I ask myself, what are you going to do to make a positive impact this morning? I think beyond that, everything else is given.
That's good to know. Now, because you are such an experienced legal practitioner and member of the African Women Lawyers Association, I'd like to take your view or your assessment on this ongoing child's rights issue. I know you've heard or you're following the story of the 63-year-old Wulomo, and they say it's a betrothal of this 12-year, now they say she's 16 years old. The laws clearly say that it's a crime. No child should be forced into marriage. No child below the age of 18 should be forced into marriage or even be betrothed to anybody, especially with that age gap. What do you think of this situation?
Look, you know, there are so many cultural practices that actually militate against the young girl child. It's not just in Greater Accra, it's in the Upper West region, it's in the Northern region, the Savannah region.
In fact, according to UNICEF, they say 1 in 5 girls.
There's so many of them, you know. I mean, I remember conversations around female genital mutilation, and recently I've read a very interesting story from Ethiopia where a women's group is actually advocating for a return to FGM, which was banned some years ago.
A women's group?
A women's group, and is actually threatening even to go to court to have that act overturned. So you get what I mean. Cultural things can be very, very, you know, emotional. They actually evoke enormous emotions in a lot of people. And in the days since this matter has actually become part of our news and conversations, I have heard very enlightened people even hiding to criticize because they don't want to do so publicly. You understand? And I've tried to understand that cultural, you know, conversation too in the context of the Ghana state. Be that as it may, there will always be different schools of thought about the matter. Should a 12-year-old even be betrothed to some adult for whatever reason? But yes, we have Trokosi, we have all the elopements of young girls for marriage, and many other things that really don't help the progress of the girl child or the women generally. So I'm happy that this conversation has come up. And of course, I've heard how from age 12 it's now by age 16, you know what I mean?
Not to marriage.
Exactly, yes. So nomenclature may be, you know, trying to make something that looks very bad appear much better than it is, or trying to generate some acceptability within the public domain, etc. Look, we need to allow young girls to grow and develop. It's the same for the teenage pregnancies that occur for the grown-up men. There's a lot of pedophilia as well in the system. You know, there are so many ills in our society. And I like the fact that this conversation has actually led us to all these other debates about all these other things. There's a social protection bill that we worked on many, many years ago. We haven't heard it yet being passed into law. You know, so we need to take these things very, very seriously. And look, social media is fantastic. But for social media, stories such as this will probably remain what they are.
And it's just one of such cases that has come to light.
Yes. But there's so many of them. And across Ghana generally, there is many practices that we all need to condemn. There's one about scarifications of the marks and tribal marks that we give to young children, for example. It happens, people get infected, they lose their lives. FGM is another thing that, you know, people actually use all the time. Widowhood rights, another example. Look, we have legislations to tackle all these things. And usually when they actually come up for mention and for discussion, the state agencies ought to take responsibility and take charge. And in this case, apparently, I heard the Deputy Attorney General has actually taken a great interest in this matter. And apparently the young girl has been taken into police custody of sorts. Let's see how it goes, you know. Absolutely, yes. And I think that govt does a very, very good job, and they've always done a fantastic job. So let's see how it goes. I mean, I don't think that this is a conversation that should be made partisan or anything. I think it is just that there's so many of these cultural things. There's a lot of misogyny in our society. Look, it doesn't matter how high you go, you still experience it one way or the other. And so I think that there's some men who make it possible for us to stand very tall and make life much easier for us than it is. But there are also those ones who do things that actually militate against our progress. But all of us together should continue to advocate that some of these things ought to be done. I mean, cast them into the bins where they belong. I mean, we have more important things than what makes any of the chief or somebody
So we
happy.
put a question, I think 2 days ago, to the Nana Addo about if it turns out through investigations that this girl has been defiled or there is some evidence of conjugal activities, should the 63-year-old Wulomo be arrested? And I understand that because we are walking such a fine line between customary practices and rule of law, it's also a sensitive matter. There are some nuances that need to be really navigated well. From your experience as a legal practitioner over the years, do you think that, or should we arrest this man if the evidence points that the girl was in fact defiled or was betrothed to the man?
Why do you want to preempt what the police will tell us eventually? There's an ongoing investigation. I believe I listened to my sister Nana Addo speak to this matter. She's an expert in the field and has done many, many things, worked the straight and narrow on these matters. The law on these matters is in her bosom. Okay. And so if they're investigating, let's allow the law to take its course. Okay. And personally, I listened to all the traditional persons who've spoken about the matter. So far, I haven't heard that there's been any tampering of any sorts. I haven't heard of any matters to do with sex or sexual assault for that matter, or any of these things. I mean, these are matters that in our society are usually discussed in the closet or in the bedroom. But obviously, if there's been anything like that, I'm sure that eventually we'll be made, conscious or aware of it, and definitely action will be taken. Look, these are very delicate matters, and sometimes, irrespective of your professional outlook, you need to navigate very cautiously. I remember years ago, there was a matter in the Upper West region, and I remember commenting on it, and there was a very, very senior most lawyer who called me and was very upset and didn't see why I did that. Recently, there was another lady who actually went to the beach dressed a certain way, and there was some, generated some annoying, opprobrium. I mean, why would she wear? But I was wondering, what do you expect her to wear? I mean, she's a great artist, she's a performer, and encourages people to, tourists to the region. She's done amazing things in the region. Was recently at the stadium here in Accra to perform at the closing ceremony of the, the sports. Think about it. People should be allowed to be who they are, especially if they're of age, and do the things that they do because they are responsible adults. But even that one received enormous criticism. So sometimes there's a certain conflict between what societal norms and nuances are as against what cultural nuances also allow you to do. So I think that in all of these things, the conflicts will exist. Don't forget, there's even conflicts between the state in terms of governance and, of course, the rulers, the traditional rulers. And these things happen. Who stands up for the president? Who sits for the president? When the president walks in, should all the kings stand up? Should all the chiefs sit and stand? Recently, there was a spat about the national anthem and where some chiefs actually sat through it and the president was very offended. These conflicts are there, and all of us live through them. So let's look at how the jurisprudence goes and see what comes out of the investigation. But yes, I'm happy that some effort has been put into it and that the Deputy Attorney General has herself shown a keen interest and will take the matter up. And of course, Oye and others, they are experts in the area. We all will wait to see what the outcome is.
Let's talk about the Mahama campaign. You speak for former President John Mahama. Can you give me a highlight of what Mahama wants to do differently given the opportunity in December, or if he wins and sworn in January 2025? Exactly what is Mahama going to do differently?
You see, I think that the campaign has so far gone very, very well. As an individual who admires, works for, and believes in the vision of Mahama for all of us, I think that he's going to run a very honest campaign, a clean campaign, a campaign born out of sincerity and experience, a campaign also born out of a man who started a certain course, started a certain conversation, and probably didn't end the conversation, and wants to come back and finish what it is that he started. Look, we must start to look at our leaders more for who they are, what they offer us. Imagine you had a leader whose doors were shut all the time. and you knocked and the doors will not even open for you, it will be difficult for you to interact with that leader. Imagine you're the leader who looked at you and all the time told you things that he knows very well that you don't believe, but would share them anyway, thinking that, you know, you probably don't have the right to question me, or you will not even be able to question me. Imagine that you're the leader who simply wanted to lord it on all of us, to insist on wielding power in a way that we didn't expect. You know, sometimes we belabor leadership. We can also have a certain very simple, sincere, hardworking, responsive, proactive kind of leadership. Look, I have watched over the last 10 years since I've actually been politically active. I am almost convinced that Mr. Mahama is one of the most credible politicians we have in Ghana. That what he says is what he believes in. Remember that the exigency of the day may probably not make it possible for a leader to do all the things that they imagine doing for us as a people. But what would you rather have? A leader who at least makes an effort, who has started on a certain journey, who has told you that I'm inviting all of you to become stakeholders in the next conversation that I want to have with the good people of Ghana. Join me to do it. Other than that, look at what we have. In the days of Mr. Mahama, fuel was definitely cheaper. We had a tomato factory in Addo. We had a Commander sugar factory. We had the Govt shoe factory that was rejuvenated and started working again. We had the shea butter processing factory in Bipe, for example. We had the Avnash rice processing mill that was built in the northern region, and now in the northern region, unlike when it was just the composite of all the regions. You know, think about it. We had the mechanized centers that were being built and started in the Upper East region, for example, because we needed more water, more farm inputs, better access to all the things that farmers require. You know, there is a certain conversation that we sometimes refuse to have.
Okay.
The credibility of the messages that our leaders share with us. I watched how people started to talk about the e-blocks, for example. Go to the areas where these blocks are being used fully and see what contributions they've made to the communities. But we all fell for the propaganda that these buildings were what? In bushes. Today, when you drive around the country, for all the ones that are being used, do you see any bushes around them? In the days when we were young, most secondary schools were distances away from the communities. Go back to those same schools today. The communities have grown to meet the schools. These days, when I go to Tamale Secondary School, I struggle to find the demarcations for the school. When I go to St. Francis Girls Secondary School, I struggle to find the demarcations to the school. When I go to Wesley Girls High School in Cape Coast, I struggle to find the demarcations. But as a young child going to all of these schools, it was so easy to see them the minute you arrived in the community. So we sometimes don't interrogate some of the propaganda. But remember that 2024 is not 2016. That we've had a comparative opportunity to look at what the MPP has and what it has offered, and to see what the NDC has and what it has offered. What is not in doubt is that for every public university that you see in this country, check the history since the days of Nkrumah, you'll find the contributions of the NDC from the PNDC right up to this date. And I think that as social democrats, most often than not, the NDC believes more in what? Social equity, equality, fairness, and justice. So, for example, what will be concentrated in Greater Accra, we would rather think that, no, let's give a little bit to everybody. So now we have 16 regions. Mr. Mahama says that each region should be recognized for what it is that they produce, what they can produce, what they need, what they desire. How to revamp a local economy is how we can all get little bits and pieces feeding into the national kitty.
All right.
Now, there's no magic about this.
Okay.
What he is telling us is that this time I want to go on this journey with all of you. Join me, join us. Let's deliver on the Ghana that all of us want to see. I think that's about it. I mean, look at on the Corruption Perception Index, for example.
Okay.
You know what the score is for the MPP? It's 0. The Special Prosecutor's Office is in itself now very frustrated, inundated with corruption, but cannot investigate, can do absolutely nothing because their hands have been tied behind them. What did we see? Yesterday, I listened to Manasseh, who used to work here. He spoke about the JIDA report, about the report on the Ford navigation, As soon as the work was concluded, the reports were made public, and all of you were all over the place, biting into them left and right and center. What has happened today? The KPMG audit on SML is out. The president says, I've received it. And I know that he's had it for a very, very long time.
Oh, how long?
Oh, I'm sure at least he's had it for close to a month, if I'm not mistaken. And yet, still needs time to do what? Why has that report not been leaked like all the other reports that they used to leak? No, look, why has Dr. Frimpong Boateng not been commended for coming out to defend a report that government itself commissioned? You see, these are the things that we do not want to see our leaders do. To, literally hide behind the shield of government and mislead and misrepresent and create the wrong impression. All these things feed into the corruption perception index. They feed into the lack of media freedoms that we are currently experiencing. They also don't encourage effective peer review mechanisms. And I always say, one of the biggest things going for Mr. Mahama is that he's largely a very affable, credible individual. What you see is what you get. I think that more than anybody, recently I've heard the biggest joke of the century, that the NPP is actually forum shopping or, literally going out there to shop for a female running mate.
Yeah. When
Mr. Mahama nominated Professor Nana Addo in 2020, what was the reaction?
There was some backlash.
Absolutely.
Do you have any influence on that decision? I saw that you were very vocal about the call for a female running mate.
Well, personally, no. I always say that to sit with Mr. Mahama, to have conversations with him, will tell you why he has survived in politics all this while he has been capable of reinventing himself and becoming that refreshing voice that all of us relate to. It is because Mr. Mahama is also a very deep thinker. He's not naturally a very sociable kind of person. You will not ordinarily find Mr. Mahama sitting at a table and leading the debates and having very long, lengthy arguments. But put him to strict proof. Ask him a question about any subject matter. You'll be surprised the level of knowledge that he will bring to bear on the conversation.
Unfortunately, we don't have enough time, and I want to touch on a few things before we go. We know that John Mahama's government have criticized this Akufo Addo government for going to the IMF. After saying time and again that they will not go and borrow, they will not go to the IMF. But John Mahama also went to the IMF. And sometimes, comparatively, he's been in office less than this current government, about 5 years less. But he was vice president during Atta Mills's time before he assumed office. Comparatively, would you say that Mahama's government or Mahama's administration, coupled with Atta Mills combined, have done better than this government? What would be your assessment?
Oh, certainly yes. Even on the key indicators such as on corruption,
inflation,
on media freedoms, on inflation, on all, even on the foreign exchange rates, for example. Today, the dollar is nearly 14 cedis to a dollar. That's totally unimaginable, unbelievable. Where did we go wrong? So it means that the export drives didn't succeed. The effort to reduce inflation, where is it? We are currently borrowed to the hills, 610 billion Ghana cedis and counting, from 210 billion in the last how many years? Look, I don't want us to compare peaches and apples. Look at the cost of food inflation even. Our hungry are going hungrier. Our poor even poorer. So on all the social indexes, for example, this government is performing a lot worse than the former administration. And for all the criticism that they actually, held at the former administration, tell me, on all the things they criticize the most, on which of those indices have they performed better? Even on the subject of IMF. But remember, I have always maintained that Ghana is a state party to the IMF agreement. They contribute to the success story of the IMF. So if there's a need for us to go for policy credibility and need stabilization and require some funds, for example, why not? But you see, because we do not literally raise the bar on the debates, we don't raise the conversation higher than what it is. We reduce it to all this very nitty-gritties of just partisanship. Nobody looks at things very carefully. But when you do, why do you want to blame the previous administration for going to the IMF if it's going to come and reduce poverty, if it's going to come and save us from imminent collapse, if it's going to come and actually literally augment what government is already doing? Today, for example, Most of the homegrown solutions that Setekpe and others were talking about, they are the conversations we are having now. Why? But we spend so much time, and the media encourage them to go on the high tangent of literally decrying everything the former administration did as wrong and unacceptable and unethical, and literally allow them to run roughshod over everybody. We even celebrated exiting the IMF at the time with Kinke and Wache and all of those things. How have we fared? Today, look at where the pension bondholders are. For example, we are unable to pay back their investments. Older people, people who work very hard for their money, who didn't enjoy the political patronage that we all experience from other quarters. They are the ones now struggling to get their monies back. Go and check on people like my mother at 84, for example. What is the pension that she receives? Where is the investment that she made and hope that she would probably use it even to help her grandkids pay for their school fees? These are the conversations that matter to the many Ghanaians who are around, who would never see the seats of power. And what is it Mr. Mahama is saying? He himself, you can see Mr. Mahama. I mean, he has no love or want for all the grandiose things that people expect. Mr. Mahama went for a party in the Ashanti region. And there was then a very hot topical song at the time. And they danced to the song with everybody, including the venerable king at the time, and the president, and many other very important guests. Look at the furore that greeted it from our opponents then. They've come back from Kwewu. The president celebrated his 80th birthday. Why are we not making noise about the fact that the president, despite all the challenges, the hunger, the corruption that we are all experiencing, has time to celebrate or commemorate his 80th birthday?
Well, it's his birthday. I mean...
Can you... Exactly the point I'm making. You understand? 80 is a great age. To live up to 80 is not an easy thing. And to be 80 when you are president, likewise. But why did he not give the same opportunity to his predecessor? He was human too. He was a person too. He had feelings too. He also had birthdays to celebrate. And that song wasn't commissioned by him, was it? You know, look, if we raise the bar on our political discourse, I mean, like I tell people all the time, you can go and interrogate everything I've said here and then tell me whether it is true or false. You understand? In the whole hour we've engaged, I haven't engaged in any propaganda.
Partisan.
No.
Politics. Yeah,
but the things I say are things that every Ghanaian can relate to.
All right. On the conversations that Ghanaians need to be
Absolutely.
having, this anti-LGBTQ matter, where do you stand on this? Do we really need an anti-LGBTQ plus bill or law?
You see, I don't want to wade into this debate. I think that there's enormous conversation around it already. I believe that I said Mr. Mahama, he has made his position very clear from the standpoint of the very Christian and traditional environments that we have here. I think the rest of it is a matter that I will leave to the persons who are most interested in how this bill actually goes. And I think right now there's a huge spat between Parliament and the Speaker and, of course, the President of the country.
So if it
I think that we should just leave it and let them discuss it. When the Gitmo 2 arrived in Ghana, Mr. Addo then, as candidate, was consulted. What support did he give to Mr. Mahama when he received all the attacks from just about anybody? He didn't offer any attempts or advice or support. No, this is his own headache. Let him carry it. I think that sometimes we should leave issues exactly where they are supposed to be. He is president. He can decide whether to accede to the bill or not. That is his prerogative. I believe that he's communicated same to Parliament. Parliament has decided to take some actions. Let's see what happens. This is what we actually go out there to support that 275-member Parliament to do for us. We have a Speaker who is no mean a person, very knowledgeable, experienced lawyer, someone whose feet we are still learning at. Same with the President. Let's see how the conversation goes. I think that sometimes we allow too much politics in some of these conversations. It's a matter that, just like what you discussed earlier about cultures and how they clash sometimes with our laws and our jurisprudence, we have the same things between the judiciary and Parliament in terms of the fourth estate, which is the realm, in terms of the media and government. You know, these conflicts come, but what it should do is to help strengthen our democracy. And I think this is one of those exercises.
Okay, but what I'm curious about is, this seems to be going on for a while, and there's a possibility that they won't conclude on the matter before the elections. If that happens, and if Mahama comes to power, how would he tackle this?
I haven't sought his views on the matter. If you ask that same question 10 times...
You speak for him. You speak for Mahama.
Oh, but on a matter of what he will do in the event that the bill is left unsigned, I will have to ask him personally.
Okay.
But that will be his own responsibility anyway as president at any given time. And I am hopeful that Ghanaians know what is right for them. That Mr. Mahama, considering the effort he has put in, the credibility that he has, the trustworthiness of Mr. Mahama, will actually determine the fact that he should be our next leader. And so when that happens, I'm sure that if there's anything that is left unsaid and there's a need for him to take that and make it his whatever, I'm sure there are things that he will do. Because, like I said, I mean, when you are in a position, generally the power is not yours. It does not lie in your mouth. And so when it comes to our democracy, yes, people will ask you where you stand on one matter or the other. Okay. And beyond flip-flopping like some people are doing, I think that he has made his sentiments very well known. And the rest, as I say, will allow history to judge.
My final topic, question on this Mahama campaign, before we talk about how you navigate being a woman in politics, would be on the issue of the choice of a running mate. Mahama, if the NDC wins power, Mahama can only go for one term, which would mean that if you win again, Professor Nana Addo might be the one leading the affairs of the NDC. Do you think Ghana is ready for a female vice president, a female president?
You know, I don't want to belabor the point. Why is Ghana not ready for a female president?
Well, I want to know why you think we are ready for it.
I don't see why not. Okay. Look, in the media, many general managers are women.
Well, it's because there's banking, a lot of backlash on the choice of, even from Parliament.
There's 52% of us. If we decided Monday morning to make Nana Jane the Vice President of Ghana, who can stop us? Okay. Anything, I mean, it's a given. Yeah. You understand that? You know, look, is it because women are not well qualified? Oh, we are more than qualified. Is it because they cannot lead the country and probably do a good job? Certainly. And look, like I said, it takes a man with a very futuristic outlook to be so certain in his mind that I'll go out there, despite all that I know will come, and pick this particular individual. And that I will even go ahead to re-nominate this particular individual. And you know, I am naturally very passionate about everything female. I saw a write-up somewhere when someone said that, oh, Joyce's vociferous support. What is vociferous about it? I work for Mr. Mahama at this time. If Mr. Mahama wakes up in the morning and says, sweetie, you are the one I'm going with, it is my responsibility to support him in that endeavor. So
shouldn't we be encouraging the NPP? You've called them copycats for now struggling to find a female running mate because NDC led that charge. I mean, if it's such a good thing for us to have a female vice president.
Let me tell you something about the NPP if you want to have this conversation. I doubt that they hold on strongly to anything. I think that they are naturally very inconsistent on everything that they raised and made an issue of. They've done a lot worse. You know, I don't like to spend time dwelling on the failings or lack of it for the NPP. Right. I think that for both Akufo Addo and his vice president, I don't think that they even know what it is that they really want to achieve. All they want is to be in power and continue to take us all for a ride. So their issues are very different. So let's leave them where they are. I think that any leader in Ghana today understands the exigency of the day. That what Ghana needs is not tokenism. So you see, look at her credentials as a female, for example. Look at her qualifications. Yeah. Professor Mills was a high achiever, one who went into university at the age of 16. He was president of Ghana. Yeah. You understand? So I think that beyond overburdening the subject of being a woman or a female, we have an accomplished pair of hands going to join a very experienced individual. Why not? Even the Bible says that this is the right way of doing things. Why don't we give it a chance? In any case, as I say all the time, we've tried it all. Why don't we try something different? Yeah. 52% is against the other side. And then let's see what happens.
We are the majority after all. But sometimes as women in certain positions of leadership, you encounter what I like to call a boys' club, you know, where it's difficult for women to penetrate and reign over there. I'm sure you've encountered a few of such issues. How did you navigate? If you like, you can share an experience and how you navigated to come up atop.
Well, it happens all the time. I remember years ago, my former boss looked at me and said, JP, you know, sometimes I even forget you're a woman. You know, the way you walk into this room and then you demand what you want and you act as if the whole space is for you. Look at the way you even walked into my office. So yes. Okay. You see, that is why you also need something beyond just being you. Have great qualifications, have good qualities as a human being, have a great work ethic. Raise the bar wherever you find yourself. You see, with me, I am so humble that if you ask me to be a tea lady for a week, you'll come back and have tea every day. And today, let me remember Auntie Sheriaiti. When she came to the former president's office once, I served the tea in a very lovely cup. And I made sure that the tea was not even at the rim. It was just before the full cup. Okay. She said, wow, that's amazing. I'd come back here for tea every day. That is me. I do everything diligently. It's like waking up to exercise. I mean, today I knew I was coming here. I said to my gym instructor, we have to finish early. And then he said, if you get here early, by 5 a.m. I was there. 45 minutes we were done. And I got here even before 7:30. That is me. Once I commit to something, I'll do it and do it to the best. Look, I haven't undertaken this course of working with Mr. Mahama lightly. It has come with enormous criticism. There have been days when I've wanted to just walk away. It's normal, but it is in the strength you have as an individual. You always go back into it. And like I say, the best thing that ever happened to me is to have a boss who also has a certain sensitivity level. So recently we were on a campaign tour. There's been another lady who's joined us. And then he said, oh, you know, we always forget that we have ladies on the team now. We never stop to make proper bathroom breaks. Maybe in future when you guys need it, let's know. So we stop the vehicles at a hotel or somewhere so it's convenient for you. I've been working with him for 10 years. When you get a bad screaming headline, he'll be the first to offer you support. So sometimes we also need that. You know, I have been very fortunate, maybe because of my level of dedication. If you speak to my former boss today, he'll tell you that he still misses working with me. If you meet the former Chief Justice, Madam Chidra Wood, I used to run the training for judges in the maritime seminars. She will tell you the same thing about me. I take my work ethic and I take it very, very seriously. I think that beyond the beautiful qualifications that we all can acquire, if you add a decent, good work ethic, people can tell. But yes, you still suffer the same things. Men try to pull you down. They don't even give you enough credit for the effort that you make. They don't celebrate you enough. Even the people who benefit from your outlook the most, sometimes will forget even to acknowledge the contributions that you make. But ask yourself, have I done it well? Have I given it my best? Have I been as dedicated as I should be? Once you can answer yes to all those questions, the rest is done. But at the end of the day, God is your helper.
I don't think this comes naturally to most women. Or has that been your second nature throughout? Confidence in doing, or is it just because you do your work diligently, you've not really encountered any time when you feel like you cannot be as vocal because you're a woman? I speak to a lot of young women, and they tell me that sometimes when they come face to face with certain situations where men are dominated, they can't find their voice.
But imagine that they tried to look within them and actually found their voices for once. Imagine the difference that will make. You see, that's the challenge. When you feel something, that's not about women, like I say all the time.
Yeah.
How often do you see women boasting, bragging, talking, and you ask a woman, oh, can I offer you this? And they will tell you all the things they have. Oh, can I support you with this? And they tell you how strong they are. You know, think about it.
But men are very comfortable talking about themselves.
That is the difference.
Men are their stories.
That is it. They walk and talk their stories.
Yeah.
So you see most successful women that you see, that you admire. Look at them carefully. They've imbibed a certain aspect of that.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Anytime you meet a woman who is successful, look at it very carefully. You know, like I told somebody once, when, how, people like to spread negative, unnecessary stories about people. You know, I tell you all the time that people who judge and criticize the most are not perfect themselves. They just enjoy doing that. I mean, we all have days when we want to criticize one thing or the other, but a criticism that is not valuable, that it will not add value to somebody's life, that will not make any difference to somebody, why do you bother? Yeah. The worst type of it is the very low ones that people do, trying to denigrate people's images in the eyes and character in the eyes of others. Think about it. If you speak volumes, if you speak positively, if you are that example that people want to see, who cares what your negatives are? There are no perfect human beings.
Yeah.
People don't get where they are because they are perfect. Certainly not. I mean, think about it. Be the first to cast the stone.
Yeah.
There are no perfect people. What we need are people who believe in something, who stand for something, who encourage others, who help others, who support others. I think that this is the sort of leaders, or these are the sorts of leaders that all of us want to see. And look, leadership is not about only those who are in politics, for example. When you come to work in the morning, there is someone who makes the tea, who makes sure that there's tea, there's coffee. There's someone who cleans the desk and does it beautifully. There's someone who arranges the seats and makes sure that they're good. Someone does your hair. Someone takes care of your clothes. Think about it. If they did not have a passion about the things that they did, what will the results be for you? I think that wherever you find yourself, and that is my mantra, however small the corner, take that corner, make it different. You know, someone told me something a few weeks ago that you're one of the few spokespersons that I haven't had a newspaper taken to court. Is it because you're a lawyer? I had never actually thought about it. But I know just what to say, when to say it, how to say it. And I know just when to stop. You understand? So maybe yes, that is what the legal training does for me. But you won't find me in the morning boasting about what a great lawyer I am, what a great advocate I am, what a great author or writer I am.
But you are a great lawyer.
Well, people say
My final question to you would be, is it difficult? How do you find it combining family and all the work you do in politics? Because every day someone has something to say about you. How do you prevent that from seeping into your family life or your personal life?
You know, I think that what we all have to learn to do is to achieve a very good balance.
Oh, sorry, let me chip this in. Your family is also in the political landscape. Your husband was former CEO.
Yes.
And your sister is Otiko Jaba. So combining all that, how do you draw that balance from family and then your life
it's easy.
in the media space?
You know, I remember the Miliband brothers in the UK. They were on different sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
One became prime minister, one was member of parliament. Even in Ghana, we have the Jinapo brothers who are doing the same. In Abidjan and Ivory Coast, I'm told there's a couple, husband and wife, who are both in parliament, for example.
Okay.
You know, I think that it depends on what we all want to do, what we aspire to, what inspires us, what it is that really makes us happy. But you see, navigate all of it by achieving a very good balance. I think I'm a great mother.
How do you do that?
By committing. Look, my former boss, who was female years ago, when I just started out and had my son, told me that it is not how much time you spend with your kids, it's the quality of the time you spend with your kids.
Right.
So I make sure that the time I spend with my kids is so valuable that they never forget. And so people meet me and they ask me, how did you raise a son like that? How did you raise kids like that? It's because I have made sure that I navigate. You know, I used to tell my staff that I actually recruit you bright young people because I expect you to help my kids with their homework.
Okay.
Yes, and I will tell them very, very. So I know who is good in mathematics, I know who is good in science, I know who is good in English.
Does that come with some extra money for them? Or
oh, sometimes a little tip here and there, and of course if I go away, I'd buy you something. And you know, I see them today and I tell them, my kids are the way they are because of you guys. You know, my PA, who was very close to me for many years, is now a lawyer, she's just become a mother. So I have all of these people that make it possible for me to achieve that balance. But you see, like I said, we're not men. We don't boast about who we are and what we do. It's not something that we do. I would say that for most women, it is because we say, experience me first. You understand? If you want to give me a job, give me that job and see how well I'll do it. If you want to see how good I am, offer me an opportunity and see how well I'll do it. But certainly, we don't get enough credit. That is a fact. But it's amazing that a few people actually will observe and see that you actually make an effort. And that should suffice. And God will always help us achieve something beyond even our expectations. And I am also very, very humble in the sense that I believe that my parents contributed enormously to the person that I am today. My late father in particular, and my mother, who is still a great influence on me, even at 84. So I think that sometimes you also need great mentors, great coaches, great examples. You know, this generation is lucky. Most adults want to be a mentor to somebody. They want to coach a younger person. They are happy and willing so to do. Sometimes you even have social media. You can follow some people even without necessarily encountering them. So we have many more avenues to build into ourselves good habits. And I think that the good habits will determine what your output will be eventually. So if you can imbibe these things, but let me leave you with one thing that I use very, very carefully. Fear God. Be the best of yourself. Remember that we are not who we are because we are perfect. And above all, note also that in everything that you do, it will impact someone either negatively or positively. If you know that it will not give any good impact, then why do you bother? But be sure to be knowledgeable. Garner experience. Get some expertise. Be good at something, even if it's one thing. Be very good at it. So that everybody knows that, oh, when it comes to this person,
you are the person
this is
to
it.
call.
That's about it. So I think that we are all learning, and eventually we'll get there.
We've spent an hour chatting, and I think it's been very insightful. Thank you for giving us a little window into your life and the work that you do. Ladies and gentlemen, viewers, Ghana, the world, thank you for sticking with us. My conversation on AM Exclusive was with aide to former President John Dramani Mahama, Joyce Bawah Mogtari. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam. The name is simple. It's Mogtari.
Mogtari.
Mogtari,
Yes, yeah.
Thank
Mogtari.
you.
All right, there's still more to come on the AM show. Do not change that dial. Thank you for watching.